The sunlight on Zyphora shimmered across the palace's floating platforms like scattered crystals. Its vast halls, built from glowing stone and iridescent glass, were alive with the hum of alien activity. Kalen, a human visitor from Earth, stepped through the main doors, feeling the weight of dozens of alien eyes on him. He had been here only a few hours, yet he already understood the subtle tension that filled every corner of the palace. The humans' reputation among the stars was mixed. Some admired their resilience. Others dismissed them as fragile, short-lived creatures. Princess Valira, the 19-year-old heir to Zephora's throne, lounged on a raised platform overlooking the central hall. Her eyes, the deep violet typical of her kind, swept over the newcomers with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. When her gaze landed on Kalen, she smirked, whispering to an attendant, "The human? He looks like a child. Do they even survive long journeys without fainting?" The court around her laughed politely, though many had never met a human up close. Kalen, hearing the words despite the murmurs, did not flinch. His eyes met hers steadily. He had traveled across star systems and faced challenges that few could imagine. Her insult was small, petty even, but he understood the power of silence. Responding in anger would give her the satisfaction of proving him vulnerable. He refused to do that. The reception hall was vast, adorned with floating lanterns that drifted gracefully above the crowd. The smell of exotic blooms filled the air, and alien servants glided silently across polished floors. Kalen moved with calm confidence, his posture straight, his hands relaxed at his sides. When Valira finally leaned forward, her voice carrying across the room, she delivered the final jab loud enough for everyone to hear. "Does your species even know what elegance or intelligence looks like, human? Or are you just another weak creature wandering into worlds beyond your comprehension?" A silence fell over the hall. Even the guards paused, expecting some human outburst. But Kalen did not respond. Instead, he turned slowly, his cloak swaying around him as he walked away from the platform where the princess and her court watched with surprise. Whispers rippled through the audience. Some were shocked at his restraint, others annoyed. In a society where pride and appearances dictated every action, ignoring an insult was almost unheard of. Yet as Kalen's footsteps echoed against the crystal floor, it became clear he did not care. He walked with purpose, not humiliation, leaving curiosity and tension in his wake. Outside the main hall, Kalen found the palace gardens. The bioluminescent plants cast a soft glow over the pathways, and streams of liquid light flowed gently over sculpted rocks. It was serene, almost alien in its calmness, yet Kalen's mind was alert. While Valira believed she had unsettled him, the human had already begun observing his surroundings with precise attention. The palace, beautiful as it was, held flaws. Security drones hovered lazily over critical points, and some energy conduits flickered faintly, a sign of technical vulnerabilities that even the most confident alien engineers had missed. As he walked along one of the suspended paths, a soft whir interrupted the silence. One of the palace's defense drones, sleek and angular, hovered toward him, scanning his figure. Designed to react to any unauthorized presence, it aimed a non-lethal energy pulse at him. Kalen stopped, lifted a hand, and without a single word neutralized the drone. A subtle motion of his wrist, a quick calculation of its sensor's signals, and the device floated inert before him, harmless and silent. No one in the palace had expected such precise action. Not even the royal guards had moved. They assumed the human would panic or flee. Valira, observing the scene from her balcony above, narrowed her eyes. Pride and irritation warred with curiosity. She had insulted this human, believing it would humiliate him. Yet here he was, calm, measured, capable of action she had not anticipated. Her heart beat faster, though she hated to admit it. There was something different about him. Something beyond her comprehension and her species' assumptions about humans. Kalen continued his exploration, discovering a minor flaw in one of the palace's outer shields. A vent had been left slightly misaligned, potentially compromising part of the palace's energy barrier. He noted it silently, analyzing the engineering with a mix of admiration and pragmatism. His mind raced, considering solutions that would fix the problem without alarming the inhabitants. This was how humans often solve challenges, quietly, intelligently, without fanfare, relying on ingenuity rather than authority or intimidation. As evening approached, the palace glowed even brighter. The floating lanterns reflected across mirrored surfaces, and the streams of light in the gardens danced like ribbons in the wind. Kalen returned to the main hall, not out of duty but out of necessity. There were questions to answer, subtle observations to make. He did not seek confrontation, but he would act where others hesitated. Valira approached him then, stepping down from her platform with measured elegance. Her violet eyes were sharp, but her pride made her words cautious. "Human," she said, her voice smooth but testing. "You walk as if my words do not affect you. Do you have no shame? No respect for a princess?" Kalen looked at her evenly, his voice calm and low. Respect is earned, not demanded. The room fell silent again. Even the attendants and guards paused to listen. It was not merely a statement. It was a principle expressed in the simplest terms. Valira's lips pressed into a thin line. She had expected excuses, protests, or embarrassment. Instead, she was met with quiet strength and confidence. Later, in the quiet corridors, Kalen encountered another challenge. A small security breach, a minor system malfunction, had caused a containment unit to release a defensive drone into the corridor. The drone, unfamiliar with his presence, activated and moved toward him with a buzzing sound. Kalen's hand moved swiftly, calculating trajectory and response time. With a deft maneuver, he redirected the drone into a containment field without harm. It hovered silently, then powered down, leaving him alone. Valira, watching from a balcony above, could not deny it any longer. The human's actions, though subtle, were remarkable. He did not boast, did not seek recognition, yet his intelligence, calmness, and skill were evident. Pride battled admiration within her. She had underestimated humans, assuming their frailty equated to weakness, yet here was proof of their resilience and capability. The night settled over Zephora, stars gleaming above the palace platforms. Kalen moved to a quiet observation deck, looking out across the ocean-like plains below. The moonlight reflected in his eyes as he considered the upcoming diplomatic discussions. He knew the challenge was not only to survive here, but to earn trust and respect in a society that considered humans minor players in galactic politics. He had already begun to do that silently without fanfare. A sudden movement caught his attention. Princess Valira approached him again, her expression unreadable. "I may have judged your kind too quickly," she admitted carefully, her voice low. "I did not expect this." "Competence." Kalen's eyes met hers. "Competence is universal," he replied simply. "It is not limited to any one species." The words hung in the air. It was a simple statement, yet it carried weight. Valira, for the first time, felt a flicker of genuine respect. She had assumed her insults would dominate the interaction, yet they had failed to unsettle him. Instead, they had revealed a strength she had not accounted for, the human ability to remain calm, measured and effective under scrutiny. The palace, now quiet except for distant murmurs of attendants and guards, seemed to shift subtly. Kalen's presence was no longer just that of a visitor. It was a reminder that intelligence, courage, and restraint could command attention in ways power alone could not. By the end of the night, the court had begun to murmur about the human who refused to fight or flee, the one who had quietly corrected errors and handled threats without raising his voice. Kalen, however, remained detached, thoughtful, and calm. His mind was already preparing for what would come next. Greater challenges, more scrutiny, and the need to prove, not through words but through actions, that humans were not to be underestimated. Valira, standing on the balcony above, watched him disappear into the quiet halls. Pride still battled admiration, but one truth had become clear. This human had a strength that could not be measured by insults or appearances. And for the first time, she realized that the galaxy might have underestimated Earth's children. As the night deepened, Kalen paused by a window looking out at the distant planets that spun silently in the void. He was a stranger in a world of alien power, yet he felt no fear, only anticipation. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it with the calm, quiet strength that had earned him a place in this alien court, a place that no insult could diminish. And in that moment, somewhere deep within the corridors of Zephora's palace, Princess Valira acknowledged silently that the human she had mocked might very well change her perception of the universe. And perhaps the course of her life as well. Word count, 2 countered 10. The palace of Zephora was quiet that morning, yet an undercurrent of tension rippled through its crystal halls. Kalen had spent the night observing, studying, and learning the subtle ways of the alien court. His calm demeanor had unsettled some and impressed others. But no one could deny that humans were not as simple or weak as they had imagined. Princess Valira, still struggling to balance pride with curiosity, paced her private chamber, thinking about the human who had walked away from her insult with neither anger nor fear. Without warning, the alarms in the palace blared. Red lights flashed along the walls and a low vibration shook the floors. Kalen, already in the main hall, quickly assessed the situation. Holographic projections of the surrounding space flickered to life. A hostile alien fleet, fast and numerous, was approaching Zyphora. Their intent was clear: to invade and claim the palace. The royal advisors began to shout over each other, trying to coordinate defenses. But confusion and panic reigned. Princess Valira appeared at the edge of the main hall, her violet eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. She had never seen the palace under real threat before. Her advisors, skilled in diplomacy but untested in sudden crisis, were faltering. Kalen moved calmly through the crowd, studying the holograms, the positioning of the defensive systems, and the movement patterns of the enemy ships. He did not hesitate. "They are counting on chaos," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "They expect our disorganization to make us easy prey." Valira's heart raced. She had underestimated humans before, thinking their fragility made them useless in danger. But Kalen's steady presence was already changing her perception. He did not panic. He did not shout. He simply analyzed and acted. "Human," she said sharply, "what do you suggest? Our shields can only hold for so long, and the fleet is fast enough to break them if they coordinate." Kalen studied the energy patterns of the palace shields, the alignment of defensive satellites, and the trajectory of the incoming fleet. "We don't need to fight all of them head-on," he replied. "We use their own speed against them. Force them into patterns we control. I can redirect their ships without destroying them completely, but I will need access to the primary control grid." Valira hesitated. Allowing a human to control the palace's most critical systems was risky, unprecedented even. But the urgency of the situation left her little choice. With a reluctant nod, she granted Kalen access, and the young human moved swiftly toward the control hub. Inside, the control room was a maze of glowing panels, holographic interfaces, and energy conduits. Kalen worked quickly, tapping into systems that even the most skilled Zipheran engineers rarely accessed directly. His fingers moved over the controls, inputting calculations faster than anyone could comprehend. He adjusted shield frequencies, rerouted energy flows, and subtly altered the course of the enemy fleet's ships, all without alerting them to their own mistakes. Meanwhile, outside the alien court watched the sky, expecting a massive battle. The fleet appeared relentless, weapons primed, engines roaring. But then, slowly, the lead ships began to veer unexpectedly, colliding with one another or drifting out of formation. Panic rippled through the enemy ranks. They had miscalculated the humans' ability to manipulate energy fields and predict movement patterns. Princess Valira observed Kalen through the security cameras and could hardly believe what she saw. The human was not fighting with brute force, not shouting orders, not commanding armies. He was thinking, analyzing, controlling outcomes with precision. Her pride, which had made her insult him days ago, now warred with admiration. He had proven her assumptions about humans wrong. As the fleet struggled to regain formation, Kalen deployed a sequence of holographic decoys, small energy pulses that mimicked the palace's shields and drew enemy fire away from vulnerable points. His calculations accounted for speed, trajectory, and the exact timing of each pulse. One by one, the enemy ships fired at the decoys, wasting their energy and leaving the real palace safe. The court began to whisper, astonished at what they were witnessing. The human, once insulted and dismissed, was now the key to saving Zyphora. Even the royal guards, trained in combat and tactics, watched in disbelief as a single human orchestrated their defense. In the central observation hall, Valira stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "Human, you are extraordinary." "I did not realize." Kalen turned to her briefly, his calm expression unchanged. "Extraordinary is only a matter of perspective. I simply act where others hesitate." Time moved quickly. The enemy fleet, confused and inefficient, began to retreat, unable to breach the palace's defenses. Kalen, ever vigilant, ensured their withdrawal was safe and orderly. Not a single palace structure was damaged, and no lives were lost. The human had achieved what even the most advanced alien strategies could not. When the immediate threat passed, silence fell over the palace. The red lights dimmed and the alarm ceased. The Zephyran advisors, still recovering from shock, looked at Kaelin with a mixture of awe and humility. Valeera herself felt a profound shift within her. Her arrogance had been replaced with respect, a respect born not of words but of action and intelligence. "You saved us," she said quietly, approaching him. "I judged you poorly. I was wrong." Kaelin nodded once. "I did what anyone would do in my place. I did not seek praise." The simplicity of his words struck Valeera. Humans, she realized, were different. Their strength did not always lie in physical prowess or immediate displays of power, but in resilience, intelligence, and calm judgment under pressure. Kaelin had turned an insult into a lesson without speaking a single word when it mattered most. The court began to acknowledge him formally. Ambassadors bowed slightly, and even the royal guards nodded in respect. Kaelin's presence, once considered minor, now carried weight. He did not demand it, and he did not linger in vanity. He understood that influence came from consistent action, not superficial titles. Later, as the palace returned to its usual rhythm, Kaelin walked through the gardens again. The bioluminescent plants reflected soft light on his thoughtful face. Valeera joined him, silent at first, her steps measured. "You see," she said finally, "I assumed humans were weak. I thought your species could not survive the challenges of space, that you would be fragile in a world like ours. I was wrong." Kaelin looked at her calmly. "Strength takes many forms. It is not always visible at first." Her pride softened and she smiled faintly. "You have taught me something I did not expect. That humans can endure, adapt, and even guide others when necessary." Kaelin nodded, appreciating the acknowledgement. "And Zephora is not alone. Many worlds underestimate humans. That can be both a risk and an advantage." For the first time, Valeera felt a sense of humility. She realized that her insults, born from arrogance and youthful pride, had been meaningless in the face of true skill and intelligence. Kaelin's actions had shown her that respect was earned, not assumed, and that quiet determination could command more attention than any display of power. The human and the princess walked together through the quiet palace, the weight of recent events settling around them. Guards and attendants kept their distance, sensing that this human was no ordinary visitor. Kaelin, though calm and composed, carried an authority born of competence and action. Valeera, learning to temper her pride, began to see him not as a subject of ridicule but as a partner in understanding the galaxy's challenges. Over the following days, Kaelin's role in the palace solidified. He advised on strategic matters, taught the advisors new ways to think about defense and diplomacy, and quietly corrected overlooked flaws in infrastructure. He never demanded recognition, yet his influence grew. Zephora, a planet that had once seen humans as insignificant, now viewed them with a mixture of respect and cautious admiration. Valeera, often at his side, learned from his methods. She observed not just his strategies but his patience, his calm under pressure, and his ability to think several steps ahead. Slowly, the princess realized that humans, in their resilience and adaptability, brought a unique perspective that no Zephyran, regardless of rank, had considered. One evening, as stars shimmered above the palace platforms, Valeera approached Kaelin with a question she had not dared to ask before. "Will you remain with us, human? Help guide us, advise us, so that Zephora may face the challenges ahead?" Kaelin looked out at the glowing gardens and the calm oceans below. He had faced countless dangers in his travels, but this offer was different. It was not just about survival. It was about partnership, trust, and mutual respect. "I will stay," he said simply. "Not for titles, not for honor, but because I can help. And because perhaps together we can achieve more than any of us imagined alone." Valeera smiled, a mixture of relief and pride in her expression. She had underestimated him, yes, but she had learned something far more valuable. Humans were capable of quiet brilliance, of decisive action, and of guiding others without seeking dominance. In that moment, she understood that respect was the true measure of strength, and Kaelin had earned it in every way that mattered. As the night deepened, the palace of Zephora seemed transformed. No longer was it just a symbol of alien power and pride. It was now a place where two species could meet as equals, learning from one another. Kaelin, the human who had once been insulted and dismissed, had proven that courage, intelligence,